What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Friday night fireworks edition, of course, talking tonight's monster 12-game baseball slate. Well, of course, we try to sweat out that Scotty Scheffler +5 cut line. Golf coming down to the wire, at least for me, with the lock button on Scotty Scheffler. Very much regretting that one, but you know what? We're not here to talk about golf. Enough ranting from me. We got Mangone, Statsational here to break down all 12 games, pick the winners, pitchers, stacks, home run calls, everything you guys need to hopefully get to the winner's circle tonight. Travis, how's it going on this Friday afternoon?
It's going good. I had to join back the Friday Night Fireworks show after Logan Allen put up like an 11.8. That wasn't enough to figure out we ought to have the rubber match here today. So Logan Allen is on the slate. We'll see what we have to think about him. And it's a good slate overall. It should be a lot of fun. We got the Euro League stuff going on. We got NBA and NHL finals wrapping up. So we're getting to like the home stretch here where there's tons of stuff going on, and then we'll be in the dog days this summer before you know.
It's not the Euro League. It's the European Championships, man. Euro League is the basketball thing. But yeah, Euro League.
Same thing. It's all the same stuff. Euro, whatever's going on. I watched 2 minutes and then I turned it off. It was so boring. So
I feel like baseball and soccer have one of the smallest overlaps between fans, right? Partly because it's kind of like it's a summer sport. And I don't know, baseball people are like old grumpy, grizzled dudes, and then soccer is like they're probably Pride Month people. So I don't think there's a huge overlap, but I'm excited for the Euros. We've got everything you need for that. Rubio and Jamie do a great job with the Euro projections. They were awesome during the World Cup a couple of years ago, and we got third and Schlong and Rubio, I think, bright and early on the show tomorrow. So I'm excited for that. I'm guessing you aren't, Travis, but you can stick to your NASCAR or whatever it is. Stats.
I won't be tuning in, DC. I will. Maybe I'll jump in to hit the like, but that's all. I'll pop in to hit the like and then hit X on the show.
Stats. Are you a soccer guy? I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I am. I'm one of the few old grumpy guys who does enjoy some footy. That's what we call it. See, Mangone, we call it footy. If in Europe, in England,
So don't totally understand calling it footy, but that sounds like you hang out with JBC in June.
Let me explain to you, Mangone. It's very simple. You kick the ball with your foot, so therefore footy.
It's much more of a game of football than our football is. I mean, it's the entire game is played with your feet and your head, I guess. But
well, I to be honest, I used to play soccer, so I do know what it's about. It's just boring to watch. That's all. If they took less people off the field, or they shrunk the field and then took less, and it was basically indoor soccer more goals, I'd be in. But I need more scoring.
Nothing better than a non-soccer fan telling soccer how to change their game in a completely fundamental way to fix the world.
It's a very American. Yeah, it's a very American thing. I was that guy when I first started watching soccer, but it is a great game. But you have to have money on it, Mangone. That's the key. It's the key to life. You bet on the game, you play a little DFS, and soccer then becomes a real great game. I mean, you start laying 1.5 goals, play some Asian lines, Mangone, to play the Asian line.
I'll have to check it out. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I will wake up early to hang out with Rubio and Bryce to see if I can enhance my Saturday.
Yeah, waking up early to hang out with Rubio is not high on my bucket list. But if you need the information, there you go. I will say too, Stats are saying you need money on it. At this point, if you've been playing DFS, gambling as long as the three of us have, and I'm sure many people in chat have, you kind of need money on everything, sports-wise, to make it interesting. If you told me I could no longer have any action whatsoever on sports, I don't know. I would take up cooking or something. It would be I just play more video games, or I'd probably be in shape. It would be a complete life change if I could no longer have action on sports. You think, Mangone, you'd still be watching sports every night if there was no action to be had? For me, I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, it'd be tougher. I'd still watch, but I'd probably pick and choose a little bit more, right? I would not give a shit about baseball game number, 72 that we're on today in June. You know what I mean? It has to probably be the heightened events.
Yeah, and listen, we all do love sports, but the action, you need that too. All right. Let's get to these 12 games. We do got, of course, a lot to talk about. And kind of a weird slate, I think. Interested to hear your guys' takes on a lot of these games and this kind of slate in general, because I don't see that many spots that stand out really hitting-wise or pitching-wise. It seems like a really, I don't know if balanced is the right word for it, but just not a ton that's really standing out to me. So I think we'll see spread out ownership, both at pitching and at hitting, stacks and all that, which, is fine. It's fine for a slate. I do like it when I, can kind of find a couple spots that I feel really, really strongly about, whether that's chalk plays or, even better yet, of course, when you feel super strongly about something that other people aren't on. And I don't feel that way about this slate. Still got over 2 hours to get there. So maybe we'll uncover some gems during this show and find some stuff that we can exploit. But I'll say off the bat, for me, at least right now, kind of a tougher slate where I don't feel super confident really about much on the slate, other than I'm not sure I love these expensive pitchers. But we'll get into all that stuff. Let's get into the first game of the night. Also, weather issues on several games on the slate, throwing a kind of a further wrench into what I think would be a tough slate, even if those didn't exist. It is, of course, a Coors Field slate, which I do wonder if other people see this slate the same way I do, if perhaps people kind of gravitate toward that game with nothing else being, super obvious, at least to me. So anyway, let's really get on to this first game now. I got sidetracked myself like 7 times there. Philadelphia and Baltimore up first. Ranger Suarez, he's obviously been incredible all season long. Not quite as dominant recently. 4 of his last 5 starts, he's been below 20 DraftKings points. He did have a 34 burger mixed in there. So the regression is kind of coming. I mean, it had to come. It's still going to continue. He's not going to, a month ago I was saying he's not going to finish with an ERA under 1. Now his ERA is almost 2. And I'm saying, he's not going to finish with an ERA under 2 on the year either. So there is more regression coming for Ranger Suarez, perhaps in this game against the Orioles, who do swing the bat pretty damn well against left-handed pitching. This game in Baltimore, 85 degrees, humid, a little bit of wind blowing in, so kind of neutral-ish park conditions. Obviously, Baltimore plays way better for left-handed power than it does right-handed power, given the enormous fence cutout in left field. And then Kyle Bradish going for the Baltimore Orioles. He's been pretty damn good this year as well, coming off a dominant start. 6 scoreless innings against the Tampa Bay Rays, 9 strikeouts in that one. Only needed 88 pitches to get through it. A little concerned about his pitch count, to be honest, in going forward. It seems like they want to pull back the reins on him a little bit. I'm not playing Suarez here. Bradish, I think, is a little bit more in play. I still don't love picking on this Phillies lineup, even though it is weaker than it was at the start of the year. No Trey Turner, no JT Realmuto, certainly no Brandon Marsh. Pretty decent blows to the Phillies lineup, but still a good lineup overall. Both of these lineups, of course, are low total in this one, sitting at 7 runs. So the market does expect a pitcher's duel. We'll start with you, Mangone. What are you expecting to see between the Orioles and the Phillies tonight?
Yeah, definitely a game that I don't love the bats, but it's tough to love the pitching too. Like, I want to like Ranger Suarez. Obviously, some regressions coming, like you talked about a little bit, but I never want to target the Baltimore Orioles. It's never really a spot. Like, if Chris Sale was against them today, would I want to really play Baltimore? I mean, I don't know. I would definitely consider Sale, but it's just, this is not a team that I target. So I don't see myself getting to Suarez, especially with there being a lot of pitchers that I can go up to tonight. I mean, the top 5 pitchers are on DK are Sale, Skubal, Suarez, Peralta, and Reagan. So it just comes to price tags, right? There's just a lot of options. Now, I agree with you. Like, nothing completely just sticks out. If anything does, I'd say it's probably Sale, but nothing really sticks out, I think, like other days. So, overall, though, Suarez, I'm probably going to be lower on in this range. Bradish is another interesting one because I don't love targeting the Phillies that much either, but Bradish is showing a ton of upside. Obviously, we saw it against Tampa Bay and the White Sox in 2 of the last 3 starts. I don't think Bradish is on my radar because of the price tag at 9.1K. I think there's other studs that I'd rather spend on, and there's some value that I like a little bit today that I'll take some chances on. I'm not going to X Bradish and Suarez from the pool, but I think overall I'll be underweight on them in these spots.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. They recently pushed back Bradish's start due to health concerns, and it's a long time ago now, but before the season, there was legitimate concern Bradish was going to miss the entire year with Tommy John surgery, which, two of his teammates, Tyler Wells, John Means, have already had. I do think he's pitching with a slightly compromised elbow. Now, I'm not saying he's, going down today or whatever, but for a expensive pitcher, 9,100 in a non-ideal matchup, who did get a start pushed back recently, there's a little bit of hesitancy for me stats with Kyle Bradish. Again, I do think the most likely thing is he's fine. But, we're playing a game of probabilities, and I do wait a little bit at least of some injury concern with Bradish, frankly, in kind of every game he pitches. So I don't think I'm getting there. What are you doing with this game stats, Phillies and Orioles here?
Yeah, when I'm worried about a pitcher, I mean, in general, I'm always looking at the betting markets, but when I'm worried about maybe how deep a pitcher may be going, what the market projects. So they got him pretty normal here. They're looking at almost 6 innings. So from the market standpoint, they're not terribly concerned with Bradish getting, 6 innings in there. I think Mangone kind of nailed it. It's sort of an in-between here on both sides. I'm kind of in between on the batters and on the pitching. I don't love the pitching. I'm not going too heavy on either one of these pitchers. I think we're looking at Bradish maybe being a little bit higher owned than Suarez will be here tonight, but I'm going to be under the market on both of them. And then on the bats side of it, I'll make sure I get it right, but I've actually got some more Baltimore bats than Philly. So but by no means do I have a lot of either. I'm trying to see what the market's going to be as far as ownership. I don't think we're going to see a lot. I kind of think everyone is in the same boats, kind of thinking what I'm thinking, and Mangone was saying as well. So I don't think it's going to be a real high ownership game. It's not a game I particularly like. I always forget that a lot of you guys aren't playing 150 lineups like I do. So if I was playing a 20 lineups or less, I don't think this is a game I would target either the pitchers or the batters in this game. For the 150, those guys MMEing, then I think you're going to want to have under the market on both of these pitchers. I think you're going to want to go maybe low single digits to 5%, something like that on both pitchers tonight.
Yeah, Sabre has both these pitchers really low owned. They've got Bradish right around 5%. They got Ranger Suarez around 2%. My guess is both of these guys come in a little bit higher than that, but pretty low numbers for two pitchers who have pitched well this season and are in a game that is projected to be low scoring. So, I think, if you're playing a ton of lineups, most people aren't stats, frankly.
No.
There's only a few people doing 150 really on a daily basis out there. And certainly, I do it sometimes, not all that often. And most people watching are playing, 3, 5, 10, sometimes one lineup. So in that, if you're one of those people, I think you're okay kind of going away from both these guys. If I was playing 150 tonight, even though I don't love these guys, I do think those numbers are low enough where I could potentially be slightly over the field on both of them, even though they're not two of my favorite pitchers. Just, 2% Ranger Suarez, given how he's pitched in a pretty good pitcher's park. Yeah, I don't hate it, even though not the direction I'm going to go in my 5 lineups tonight.
Yeah, Steven in the chat had it right. The Bradish actually has better K props tonight than Suarez. So looking at the K market's like 5.7 for Bradish, 5.2 if you project it out for Suarez tonight.
Which are pretty low numbers for that price point, for sure. That kind of, I'm sure, informs a lot of the low ownership numbers on those guys. Cleveland and Toronto up next. I think an interesting game here. Kevin Gausman pitching for the Blue Jays. Not that he's been terrible, and he certainly was not in his last start. 46 fantasy points against the Oakland A's. I did not play him that night, and unsurprisingly, I did not win that night either. Kind of had to have Mr. Gaussman. I think that might have been it wasn't last Friday, maybe last Saturday. I'm not sure. Whenever it was. A regrettable fate for sure. Complete game shutout for Kevin Gaussman, who he's been a tough pitcher for me to figure out this year. I mean, he was coming off back-to-back 3 strikeout games prior to that. One of those was against the Chicago White Sox. So his last 4 games, 2 double-digit 10 strikeout games, bookend 2 3 strikeout games. He's been all over the place. The velocity's been all over the place. It's been overall a disappointing season from Kevin Gaussman's typical standards that we've seen over the last couple of years, but perhaps he's got it going on. He did throw a season high 109 pitches in that game, which I think is a little bit worrisome for someone who has been, I think, not generally completely healthy this season. But in any case, I wouldn't really be playing them against Cleveland anyway. They got one of the highest contact rates of any team in MLB. So I'm off of Gaussman here. It's going to be a theme for me, at least this show, where I'm going to have some holes to pick in a lot of these high-priced pitchers. And then Logan Allen, Mr. Mangone himself, coming off the dominant 11.3 fantasy point game against the Miami Marlins. 6 innings, 2 runs. About the DFS definition of an average game, I would say, from Logan Allen. So no bragging rights, I don't think, from either side on that argument that we had last week on the show. And again, no interest from me on Logan Allen. I actually like these Blue Jays bats. Right-handed power has played well against Logan Allen. Problem is they're the Blue Jays, and they never really seem to go off and have a huge game. So I like them on paper. My brain likes them. My heart says otherwise, Mango. My heart says don't go back to these Blue Jays. They're going to let you down for the 15th time this season. But what about you, Mangone? Did you watch that Logan Allen start? Are you convinced this guy is the second coming? What are you doing with Allen and Kevin Gaussman?
I don't think he's the second coming, but I think if you're going cheap, he makes the pool for me. I don't think he's crazy. I think the people love playing the Blue Jays, and they're not that great, in my opinion. I don't want to do Blue Jays 5-mans. I'm okay with Blue Jays mini stacks just because I do think there's some good exposure that you can get to this team. Davis Schneider is one guy who's been hitting the ball really well this year. I think Vladimir Guerrero, if you have the money for him, he's great. Danny Johnson at 4.6, wouldn't mind him. But I think it's a spot where I'm going to play both sides, and it's going to be liking the Blue Jays more from a mini stack or one-off perspective. And I do think Allen is worth taking a shot on if you're looking for some cheap pitchers. He'll make the pool for me. So he's not going to be as much of a priority as he was last time out, but he'll definitely make the pool. Gaussman is definitely a guy that I really don't play much, and I don't think this is a great matchup for him. We talked about how he had a ton of the strikeouts last start, but that was against the A's. We know the A's can disappoint like that, and that was a really good matchup for Gaussman. The Guardians is not a good matchup for him. If you play Gaussman, typically you want him to be in a strikeout matchup where it's like really good. I mean, the Guardians just aren't that. They don't strike out a ton. They make contact. I mean, anyone that's going to make contact against Gaussman, it's not going to be an ideal spot. So I think Gaussman's a really bad play. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to be playing a ton of Guardians, but if someone said they were playing them at low ownership, I mean, basically anyone against Gaussman at low ownership, I don't think is the craziest idea. So that's kind of how I'm handling that. And then the Blue Jays, I think you can play some minis. I'm not going to play the 5-man. I don't think the 5-man is worth it. I think you just play some of those good bats towards the top and then call it a day.
Yeah, we have a similar take there. I'm still kind of finalizing my approach to this slate. But stats will obviously give your thoughts on the entire game, but the Guardian stack as a contrarian stack may be a little sneaky. Gaussman does give up like an above average amount of barrels per plate appearance, barrels per batted ball event. He is a pitcher who has been up and down all season, as I mentioned. That's even true in his good seasons. He has games where he gets blown up. The Guardians make a ton of contact. Outside of their 9th place hitter tonight, Bo Naylor, all of their lineup has a what I think is a projected K percentage below 20% going forward for the season. So you're going to give me contact against a pitcher who threw a season high in pitches, who can be blown up prone, who does give up home runs. Maybe some interest in the Guardians here. I think that's a good point by Mangone. What are you doing with this game stats, Cleveland and Toronto?
See, what I love about you guys is you guys are much smarter than I am with the actual games. Like you guys basically verify what I'm seeing in my models, which is basically exactly what you just said. So it's saying that play Cleveland as a sneaky type of stack tonight. I don't have a ton of it. When I just ran it, I'm actually going to up them a little bit. I'm not going to have a ton. I've got some other stacks that kind of fit that as well. So DC, it's like you're actually thinking and seeing it what I'm seeing in the numbers.
It's interesting because we certainly have different approaches to how we kind of attack a baseball slate, but oftentimes we come to the same conclusion despite the different ways that we approach it. I kind of break games down on an individual hitter versus pitcher level, and then looking at kind of the aggregate that gets there. But it does always intrigue me, stats, when we kind of come to a similar, especially when it's a very contrarian conclusion like we might be coming to here with the Guardians.
Yeah, I love it. That's why I enjoy doing the show. I mean, I learned from you guys, and I just like that verification of what I'm seeing, you're seeing as well, because I'm looking at it, like you said, from a totally different standpoint. So I do think Cleveland can be sneaky. And with that said, that'll let you know what I think about Gausman. So I'm not playing any Gausman tonight. And as far as Logan Allen goes, I'll let Mangone go ahead and die on that one again. I think the 11 that he got you last week is about the best that he'll do for you tonight. So it's just going to be a matter of does the Rocky game or something, like, do you need him in the Rocky game with someone else really cheap and the Rockies all score 40 points apiece? Like maybe that would be the only way he winds up in the nuts. I just don't see it. So I'm actually going to be fading both pitchers in this game. And like I said, Toronto will be one of my, even though it's against Logan Allen, I'm not going to have a ton of Toronto here. I think Cleveland can be sneaky. Won't be one of my higher stats, but you don't need to in 150 lineups. I don't need for them to be in 20% of my stacks because I don't think they're going to be high owned at all. I don't mind Mangone's idea here with maybe taking a couple of pieces and going with that, going with like a 2-man or a 3-man stack. But I think the 5-man stack may be viable as well. If you just want some of the you look at Logan Allen, 3.9 Ks is his projection. They're projecting him for almost 3 runs, 5.5 hits. I mean, it's not a very sexy line. And then when you look at Gausman, you guys said it. I mean, Cleveland makes contact, only 5.2 Ks we're looking at on the projections. They are thinking he gets close to 18 outs, which is the 6 innings, but 6 hits, over 2.5 strikeout, over 2.5 earned runs. It's not something that I'm really excited about at 8,500. So I'm fading both pitchers here.
Yeah, actually, not that it's a ownership percentage that would take you off the Guardians, but I was kind of surprised. Sabres got them around kind of 5% across the board. I was actually expecting to see a lower number than that. Again, if they get the job done, that's certainly not anything that, or if you're confident in them, not something that should take you off them, but was a little bit surprised to see the number even that high. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually comes in lower than that. We didn't talk much about the Blue Jays. I'm definitely higher on them than Stats and Mangone are. The power bats in particular for the Blue Jays, I think, are pretty strong plays here. Vladimir Guerrero, definitely my favorite of the bunch, but Danny Jansen, Davis Schneider, Bo Bichette, all those guys I think are pretty reasonable plays as well. Logan Allen, obviously, going back to last week, not a guy that I just have a ton of respect for in general. Someone that I do want to target with right-handed power, frankly, most of the time that he takes the mound, including tonight. San Diego and the New York Mets are up next. This game is one with weather concern, one of a few. Slightly other concerns in Baltimore. We really didn't discuss that. I think it's going to be fine, and I also think this game will play, but do need to mention it is something that you're going to have to keep an eye on as we get closer to lock if you are playing players from this game. Sean Manaea, lefty throwing for the New York Mets. Matt Waldron, guy we've been on in the RPS streets for a while now. Someone that I really wasn't in on to start the year. I very, very much doubted his ability to get the job done, throwing a knuckleball 30, 40% of the time. But he's proven me wrong at this point, I'm willing to say, and he's someone I do consider or at least look into on most slates. I'm not super excited going against this Mets team, but they are much worse against right-handed pitching. And Waldron, obviously a very, very unique pitcher. Something I kind of held against him to start the year. Now, something that I think is an asset for him, throwing that knuckleball, which seems to be getting more and more effective as the year progresses. So I don't hate Waldron here at 8,100 on what I think is a pretty tough pitching slate. No interest in Sean Manaea. I haven't played a pitcher against the Padres on one of my main lineups in a long time. I'm not going to start here, essentially since they got Luis Arias into the lineup, the lowest strikeout guy in baseball. Just not enough Ks. I think they're the most similar team to the Guardians, where they do lack a little bit of power, and not maybe the biggest names in the world outside of, a Tatis for the Padres and a Jose Ramirez for the Guardians, but just not a team that's conducive to a lot of DFS points for the opposing pitcher. So I don't like Manaea here. I do like these Padres power bats to get Profar back in the lineup, injury scare from him. But Tatis, Profar, Machado, Donovan Solano had a double dong the other day. I think this Padres team a little bit interesting against the Mets. We'll start with you, of course, again, Mangone. Mets, Padres, what do you see here?
Yeah, I'm not super excited about this game. One, the weather could cause problems here. Also, our good friend, DC, Sean Manaea, that we met. Is he a vengeful guy? Isn't this a revenge game for him? He didn't seem too vengeful when we met him.
No.
Yeah, seemed like a very nice guy. But I don't see myself really playing the bats here or the pitchers. I think if the weather was fine, I would consider Matt Waldron. Matt Waldron's definitely been very impressive this year, and for 8,100, I still think you could buy at that price, but I think just weather's going to keep me off this one. I'm going to look for other options.
Yeah, I do think a pretty good chance. I think a really good chance looking at the rate of this game starts in delay. I think they should be able to wait it out and start it an hour or two after the scheduled start time, but that always worries me, stats, especially on a 12-game slate where it's not like you feel that strongly, or at least I don't, about this game in any direction. So, do you really want to risk getting a game postponed for plays that you're not that excited about anyway? Probably not. So I'm probably with Mangone. If this game starts in delay and it looks like it could rain for an hour or two, which I think is at this point the most likely scenario, probably just moving on. But what are you doing here with this game stats?
Yeah, I mean, I looked about an hour ago. I kind of saw what you saw on the radar, where it looks like it's just going to kind of come through. I think they're going to play the game. It's just a matter of, do they want to wait till like 9 o'clock?
It's going to rain in New York for a while. Like that much, it seems very clear.
It looked like it was passing like by 9. I could be wrong. Yeah. That's what I thought I saw like an hour or so ago when I was looking at the radar. Once we get off of here, that's going to be something to monitor. Let's just kind of assume you're playing the game. I mean, from a pitching standpoint, I agree with what you guys are saying. You kind of look at the projections, and neither one of these guys is projecting to get much in the way of strikeouts. San Diego, I mean, tough to strike out anyway. 4.4 Ks for Manaea, 4.5 for Waldron in the betting market. So, I'm not high on either one of these pitchers. Matter of fact, I'm just not going to play either one of these pitchers. I do think if you're worried about the game being delayed, I think if they play the game, it kind of goes through unless they start on time, because then there's definitely weather coming behind it. But they probably, like you said, start delayed. If they start delayed and the game actually plays, then the pitchers will pitch through. But yeah. I just don't like the pitchers anyway. I do think you can play. I like what you're saying about San Diego. I do think San Diego. See, for me, I'm going to have a decent amount of San Diego, which is why I'm going to be focusing on this game quite a bit, or focusing on the weather for this game, because I do think the San Diego bats will be low owned, partially because of the weather, partially because we've got some other big stacks on the table here. We got a Coors game. Arizona looks pretty good. So I'm really going to have to watch this one for the next hour and change and make a decision. But if I'm pretty confident that the weather is good, I think we can get some leverage on the market on the San Diego side. I really like that side of this game. So I think I'm going to be going a decent amount of San Diego stacks here. Again, weather, kind of if the weather works out. But I think I don't know where Sabres got them, but I think we're looking at like, low single digits, I think, as far as ownership on the San Diego side, on both sides really. But San Diego's the side I like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think San Diego pretty interesting here. Tatis been on fire. Profar been crushing lefties. Machado has been kind of a slow season for him, but I still think he's someone to use in general against mediocre lefties. Solano, like I mentioned, a good, low price bat. So yeah, I think San Diego could come and play, and yeah, I would be really surprised if this game starts on time. But I do think the most likely scenario is they just wait out the weather and then play it, an hour or two or however long it takes after the scheduled start time. And listen, you'll get these bats lower owned than they otherwise would have been if it does start in delay, especially if that delay is announced a significant amount of time before the game is scheduled to begin. So I'm not writing it off yet. I think you're okay to do so. Honestly, if you just don't want to deal with it on a Friday night, just cross it off and move on. 11 other games to choose from. But I do think the most likely thing is they do play after a moderate rain delay there. Tampa Bay and Atlanta are up next. Chris Sale, most expensive pitcher on the slate. He's earned that title. He's been fantastic all year outside of that one horrific game against the Oakland A's. I was certainly on the Sale train on that game. I've really been on him almost all year, and he has delivered time and time out other than against the Oakland A's. Back on track. The game after that, last game against Washington, 7 strong innings, 10 strikeouts, 102 pitches. Don't think there's really anything to worry about with Chris Sale. A one-off hiccup against the A's. I think you kind of just write it off and listen, could happen again at some point, but I wouldn't really put too much stock into that game. He does face a Rays team here who is a little bit tough on left-handed pitching. They are going to roll out, it looks like, 9 right-handed bats. Of course, Sale can mow through any lineup, including this one. It's not a super great lineup by any means. It is 90 to 95 degrees in Atlanta. A little bit of humidity, a little bit of wind blowing out to center field. That does have me somewhat concerned for Sale here, but still a low team total for the Rays. Still a high strikeout prop, I assume, for Chris Sale, or at least it should be. And then, so the price then going is kind of what has me off of Sale. I just don't know if I want to pay that price on this slate, but I do think Sale is probably the pitcher I'm most willing to spend a high price tag on. And then Zach Littell pitching for the Rays, definitely a good pitcher. He has been way better at home than on the road this year. Makes sense, pitching in one of the better pitcher parks in Tampa in that dome. The Braves. I don't know what to say about the Braves at this point. I'm not going to use them much here. They're still not really a team I want to target with a kind of a contact-oriented pitcher in Zach Littell. So I don't think I'm going to him. I'll probably be under the field on this game overall. And I'm guessing you're not loading up on your favorite team, the Atlanta Braves. But what are you doing with the Braves and Rays here?
Yeah, so Chris Sale is definitely someone that it sounds like I'm a little more interested in you to try to get him in there because I think you have enough cheap bats that you can and some cheap pitchers that you can go to. So I like Sale. He's definitely one of the top pitchers on the slate, but you got to have the money for it. I do not like the Rays. I think the Rays are a terrible play, obviously, and I really don't want to play the Braves. The one thing you may have sort of sold me on, DC, is I didn't realize it was like 95. That's like really hot. And I'm definitely a big believer in like when one game is just like scorching hot, like I want to kind of target it, especially compared to the others. But I'm going to do my best to stay away from the Braves, DC. I'm going to try really hard. I'm curious what Stats has to say about it. I'm sure he'll like them because he plays 150 teams. I'm not playing 150 today. So I'm going to do my best to stay away just because this Braves team from time to time disappoints, and Zach Littell isn't that bad. Yes, he's a guy I think at times he could pick on here and there, and I think he can make cases too, but he also can show upside at times. And I think I'm going to just take my chances with other offenses on a 12-game slate because it does seem like the Braves are going to be kind of popular.
Yeah, Littell's biggest strength is he just doesn't walk anybody. Super low walk rates. Those pitchers, I talk about it often. I don't love stacking against him. It would be home runs that you're chasing if you're going to Braves bats here, which, I mean, last year they set the all-time record for home runs hit, and they have a similar lineup outside of Acuna, but man, it just has not happened for this Braves team. I'm honestly a little bit befuddled as to what is going on with guys like Austin Riley. But at this point, kind of just looking other directions, especially when we've got so many games to choose from. Over to you, stats for Braves and Rays. What do you got for us?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed Littell. He's got the lowest walk total on the board here tonight. So, yes, that's kind of his thing. Gets the ball over the plate. And then Boynton kind of in the chat here chiming in. Nearly 8 Ks for Sale. That is correct. He is the highest K guy on the slate as far as the betting markets are concerned. Pretty much 8 strikeouts is what the market is looking for. He is not quite the highest implied fantasy point total when you look at the betting markets, though. Peralta is going to get the nod there. So I'm going to be pretty heavy on Sale tonight. The Atlanta stacks, I'm kind of with you guys. I want to be under the market on these Atlanta bats. Just haven't been doing it for me. I think a lot of times on the show, we've kind of said we'll take the Atlanta as a contrarian type of stack. They're consistently just a lot of high run totals.
And then they score three runs every night, right? It's just like
so I'll be under the market tonight. We'll see if they kind of make me pay for that. But they do have one of the higher totals on the board here tonight. I think it's applied like 4.9, something like that. Of course, we've got much higher ones with the Colorado game and Arizona. But yeah, Sal's going. I'm going to be over the mark. Well, I'm going to be over the market considering what where Saber has Sale, but I don't know if Sale's going to come in as low as Saber. If I'm going off of memory here, I don't have Saber up in front of me, but I think Saber. I was looking at something like getting maybe 40% on Sale, which I think should get me over the market. Where they've got him 25%.
Right, exactly 25 right now. Yep.
Yeah, so I think he comes in a little bit higher than that, but I think if you get 40%. For you MME guys, and I'm perfectly fine, obviously playing him in your single entries, 3 maxes, things like that. I do like Peralta even more, but Sal definitely in play for me. Littell not at all. I'm going to be fading Littell, and when you run, for those of you who do have Saber, and I ran it earlier, it gave me quite a bit. While I've got Sal rated pretty high, I put a lot of my own projections in there. But using the projections that you get with Saber, and then if you're running it through their sims, they're actually giving you quite a bit of Tampa. So I kind of, I disagree with it. I would tone that down, but just a heads up, when you're running it through Saber, if you want to just strictly go with the sims, and I kind of understand, you're going to see that often with the sims. They're going to try and kind of go against one of the bigger pitchers because obviously you've got a high leverage spot. I just don't think this is a really good leverage spot to go against. I think there's actually a better spot here tonight to go against one of the pitchers who will be owned, but I don't think this is the one. So if you are using the sims, I would kind of tone back on the Tampa that it may be giving you.
I wouldn't full stack Tampa either. One play in particular does stand out. I think Yandy Diaz is a really, really strong play here against Chris Sale. Looking at all the numbers, I think he's got a good chance to do some real damage. We don't have time to go into it, but I do wonder, if you just bet the closing line team total for the Braves under on every single game this year, what kind of percentage you'd be hitting? I would guess.
I know. I was thinking, I don't have the number. I was thinking, as it was coming out of my mouth, I was thinking the same thing you were. I'm like, I really got to look that up.
70?
Yeah, I feel like you've got to be making money if you took their unders right now.
Oh, for sure making money.
Yeah.
They've got the highest team total, or one of the top 3, like literally almost every single game.
Every week. Every game, every night. Yeah.
Yeah. And almost never get there. We got to keep it moving though. Detroit, Houston up next. We've got Derek Skubal. This is a Boynton slate. Yeah, I shouldn't have asked off the show, Steve Boynton. Skubal's been fantastic all year long. Really hasn't shown any signs of weakness. Mowed through that tough Brewers team in his last game out. It's kind of another tough matchup, at least on paper here, against a contact-heavy Astros team. Another pitcher I'm having a hard time clicking on in Tariq Skubal, even though, as good as he's been, and I do love Tariq Skubal, but in this particular matchup, I don't know if I want to pay that price tag for him. I do really like Hunter Brown, though, here. His season-long numbers are never going to recover from that just horrific outing he had in early April, but he's been much, much better. I've been riding the Hunter Brown train for a while. It's generally been paying off, and this price tag does not come up. It's actually at its highest point in a while at 7,200, but still, I think a discount to his talent level, especially when you consider the strong matchup against the Detroit Tigers. I like Hunter Brown a lot here. He will be, I think, in my core tonight, Mangone, one of my highest owned pitchers. And then not a lot of bats in this game for me. What about you, Mangone? Detroit and Houston.
Yeah, I can help speed up the show by saying if you want to play Scooble, great. He's a good play, but I prefer other pitchers in this range. It's just kind of simple. And Hunter Brown is a great play. I agree with everything you said. I think if you do look at the numbers, he definitely probably has positive regression coming all season long just because of how bad that one start was, like you said. But Hunter Brown going to be one of my favorite values on the slate. So love Hunter Brown. Scooble's fine if you can get him. I'm not going to, shit on him. I think I did that the last show and it didn't go great. I think overall, though, I like other guys over Scooble, but he's definitely in the pool in the conversation. And Hunter Brown's a great play and no bats in this game.
Yeah. These three-man shows, it's the only three-man show of the week. So they always, it's like another third of talking. So, we'll try to keep it moving. Stats, Detroit, Houston, what do you got?
And it's usually the most games of the week.
Yeah.
On Friday
bad
night.
Combination.
It's a bad combo. But, so, I mean, when you look at when you're projected out in the betting market, Scooble and Brown are not that far off. They're a little over a point off, and think of the price savings here. So that's why, as good, pretty much what you guys said, as good as Scooble is, I mean, I much prefer Brown. So I think in this one, you're going to want to go under the market on Scooble, and then you definitely want to be high leverage on Brown. So I think you want to get over the market on Brown. Now, there is the possibility there of taking some Detroit stacks. If in the 150, if you want to take some Detroit stacks as a leverage play, I like that as well. So I don't even mind being over the market on Brown with some Detroit stacks in there mixed in as a leverage play. So I think that's a possibility. But I think if you're playing, 3 maxes, 20 max, something like that, even the 20 max, you could throw a couple of Detroits in there. But I think you want to get over the market on Brown and then get yourself under on Scooble. I think that's the way to go on this game tonight.
100%. Brown, one of my favorite pitchers on this slate. Another one of my favorite pitchers is in this game, Twins and Oakland A's. Modest weather, nothing really to talk about in that respect. We have Simeon Woods Richardson pitching for the Twins. I've been kind of on the fence about him a little bit, but he's been solid. One concern with him, it seems like the Twins want to, for the most part, limit him to 2 times through the order. I could see that changing a little bit against an A's team that has been ice cold recently. If you look at like the last month or so, they have essentially the worst stats in almost every category, including strikeout percentage of any team in baseball. So Woods Richardson sitting there at 7,500. I really, really like him tonight at home against this A's team that I will continue to target until further notice. And I like the pairing of Woods Richardson and Hunter Brown. Gets you some savings, gets you some big bats in there. Very high on Woods Richardson. Not going to play Oakland bats. And then Mitch Spence pitching for the A's. I've been in on him some starts. I was in on him in Seattle, didn't get it done there. I think he's okay. I do think you could play Twins against him. They do have a pretty high team total, getting close to 5 runs. I'm not crazy about the Twins tonight, but I certainly think they are reasonable plays. But Woods Richardson, the guy that I'm going to have by far the most exposure to in this game, Mangone, and will be one of my top 3 owned pitchers on the slate, just kind of depending on how everything shakes out. What about you, Travis? Minnesota Twins, Oakland A's, what do you got?
Yeah, I think Woods Richardson is definitely a solid play at 7,500. I think he's in the pool. Oakland's been bad. You mentioned it all. I even don't mind Mitch Spence against the Twins here. I just think at 6,700 as a cheap option, if you want to spend up for bats, he's definitely, I think he's in the conversation a little. We know the Twins, they can be an up and down offense. I'll take some chances on both pitchers at 7,500 and 6,700. And I don't like a lot of bats, and I know we haven't liked a lot of bats on this slate, but we're getting to them, I promise.
That's just a theme on this slate. Like I said at the top of the show, it's tough for bats tonight. What about you, Stats? Are you in on the Simeon Woods Richardson train with me.
I mean, I don't mind getting over the market if the market is where we kind of think it will be. I mean, what are you thinking? Like 15% is going to be the market on him, and yeah. So I mean, if he's going to be one of your top 3 guys, I'm fine. Probably not going to go as heavy as you, but I don't mind it at all. 5.4 is his projections for strikeouts. I mean, we're looking at in the betting markets close to 16 points, which isn't terrible at that price. So I agree with you there. I'm not going to have any Spence. Kind of back to Woods Richardson. You're not going to get hurt going against Oakland. I mean, they're going to strike out a ton. I think you've got some upside there always against Oakland with strikeouts. So at that price point, I'm with you. The Minnesota, I think you mentioned it, 4.9, close to 5 now on their team total. So I could get down with both sides of this game, kind of taking Minnesota stacks and going with the Woods Richardson. Minnesota stacks I'll have a decent amount of them. I didn't look at the actual where Saber thinks their market's going to be, but I'm going to say I'm probably going to be close to the market if I take 10% or there around Minnesota stacks in my 150.
I assume Woods Richardson has a relatively low outs prop.
His outs for tonight are 16.6 outs would be his number. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was expecting a lower number, and I was going to make the point that maybe like the outs to strikeout ratio would be pretty good, the strikeout wise for Woods Richardson, who I do think could get more strikeouts here than the number.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his strikeout total, that's actually a good point. He's got the fewest outs projected in relation to his Ks, just eyeballing it. So you're correct about that.
And I do think there's a chance to give him more leash here, especially if they're off to a good start and it looks like he can, I think it's the Twins, I think it's their 11th game in a row. So I'm guessing they wouldn't mind getting the bullpen a little bit of rest if he's pitching well. And they could obviously potentially put some runs up against Spence as well. So I do really like Woods Richardson. Will definitely be over the field on that, 15% mark that he should be owned at. Cincinnati and the Milwaukee Brewers up next. This one in Milwaukee. Freddie Peralta pitching for the Brewers. I think he will contend for the highest owned pitcher on this slate. It looks like Sabres got him as a pretty decent favorite to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Understandably so, against the Cincinnati team that obviously has been pretty cold in general. Has a lot of strikeouts, is away from home. Peralta's been a little bit shaky recently, coming off a rough start against Detroit. Did have 3 good ones in a row before that, so wouldn't worry too much about that one start. I do think, he is going to be highly owned. He's expensive. So those are, reasons why I'm not quite as high on Peralta, but I totally get the play. Hunter Green, really volatile pitcher. He has been more consistent this season. We know he can get the strikeouts. His velocity has been a little bit shaky. I really haven't been on him too much. That's been a fine take. He hasn't crushed or gotten crushed. But I'm probably not playing him here against a Brewers team that I generally don't target. So this will be a game that I'm pretty low on in general. What about you, man, going Cincinnati and Milwaukee?
Yeah, this is definitely a game that I am going to have some interest in on both sides. I'd say Freddie Peralta, from a pitcher's perspective, a lot of people are going to be on him for good reason. I think he's a really good play. Gosh, I couldn't hold the sneeze. I was battling the whole time. Freddie Peralta is, I think, a really good pitcher today. Chalk option, but I still think he's worth playing. On the counterpoint, like for instance, we talked about liking the Guardians a lot today as like a leverage a little bit and just like a low-owned team. I mean, you can make that case for the Reds. You could, but I much prefer the Guardians over the Reds. And we just know how boom bust this Reds team can be. So I don't totally mind them. And honestly, Brewers-Reds games, they just always seem to shoot out. At least it's felt like that over the past, 5 years or so. It just always feels like, and maybe it's because of the ballpark that the Reds play in. And the Brewers park, when you get into the summer, it can play a little bit hotter when they open up that roof. And so I do think this is a game I want to target. And Hunter Green, you talked about it. See, he's very volatile. And I've considered playing the Milwaukee Brewers against, Tariq Skubal. Why wouldn't I consider it against Hunter Green? The projections aren't terrible on the Brewers today. I think the Brewers are a really good offense that are still going to be low owned, and I'm going to take chances on them. They always have value that you can mix in throughout your lineup. which that's an encouraging thing on this slate because we're going to need some value if we decide to spend for some of these top end guys. Like if you want a Chris Sale, you're going to need some value with this team. They at least have it in that bottom of the order with some of these outfielders that you can roster. So like the Brewers a lot. I think Freddie Peralta is still a good play. And I wouldn't hate taking stabs on this Reds team, and it won't take much to get overweight. And I understand they're not the best on the road, Jake. I get it. I'm just saying very low percentage. I think you could take chances on them, but I do prefer the Guardians as a lower owned offense first.
Yeah, for sure. Stats, Reds and Brewers here.
Yeah. I think Free Scotty, I think, nailed it in the chat. We were talking about Hunter Green getting a ton of pitches. That shows itself in the betting markets. I mean, he's actually projected to get 18.6 outs, which is almost a full out more than Peralta is in this game. Both of these pitchers projected for a high strikeout total. Peralta, we're looking at 7.7, 7.2 for Green. So, I mean, I really like both pitchers. Peralta just Peralta's going to get the nod. Peralta's my highest owned pitcher on the slate. I've got him projected for about 23 points. Just about 20 points, though, for Green. So I think both pitchers on this slate are going to be really important for me tonight. I'm going to be over the market, trying to get over on both of these guys. I've been reading the chat, and I totally agree with what everyone's saying. They may not want to necessarily be on a chalk Peralta. So I'm cool with that. But in my 150, I'm getting over the market. I'm going to get it close to 50%, which I think will be over the market. Who knows? If I knew he was coming in at 50, then maybe I would tone it back a little bit. But I think the projections are for much lower than that on the as far as the ownership markets go. So I'm comfortable being over the market if he's going to be in the 30s. And then Green, I think you'd want to get just as much, or not just as much as far as 50, but I think in the 30s as well. So I think both of these pitchers you want to get over. I don't mind what Mangone was saying. If you want to take a little leverage play, take a stab with the Cincinnati stack. That's okay as well. I'm not going to have much of it. I'm not going to have much bats at all in this game. But for me, this is a really big leverage spot for me against the field on both Peralta and Green.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Just thinking about some things. I do think the Brewers against Green make some sense. They've got power. They've got speed. Green has allowed 10 steals already on this year. He's allowed 16 last year. Gives up home runs. A volatile pitcher in general throughout his career. And the Brewers have put up some big numbers on better pitchers than Green. And I'm seeing sub 3% on every Brewer in the lineup. I think they could do some unexpected damage here. So might be getting a Brewer stack in there myself. Coors Field up next as we move westward. Of course, the highest total on the slate in this game. No surprise. Been brutally hot for the last few days in Denver. It has cooled down a little bit due to a little bit of rain this afternoon. Potential rain tonight, but this game I feel very confident will play. Very rarely, Mangone, you live here. It's very rare to get rain showers lasting longer than an hour. They'll get this game in one way or the other. I don't think people are playing Luis Ortiz or Ryan Feltner, or at least they shouldn't be, in my opinion. But yeah, both offenses look good here, and these are two pretty bad pitchers in the best park, and the stacks are not that expensive. So if you want to make the case for an ownership fade, I can understand that, but I'm saving money for the most part at pitcher Mangone. There's not a lot of offenses that I really love, so might be playing some Coors Field bats tonight. Big question, as always, anytime Coors Field is on the slate, what are you doing with this game, Mangone?
Yeah, I like Coors. I mean, I can keep it pretty quick. It's Coors, right? You either play it or you don't. I'm definitely going to have exposure to it just because I think it's too good of a spot. I would kind of lean maybe liking the Rockies more because I think Pirates will be more popular, and I think the ownership discrepancy is worth taking a more of an overweight on the Rockies side. So that's kind of how I think I'm going to handle it. And then I would say the one thing that is nice about these teams is they're easy to fit because the price tags are just cheap, right? There's no one above 5K. There's a ton of value throughout the lineup. If you're worried about the ownership, one argument I would make is maybe build like a 4-3-1 instead of a 5-2-1 if you want, right? Find another way to make it slightly different. I don't think that's the craziest way to approach it if you want to, but overall, great game. Stack it up. Not playing the pitchers.
Why did I meet you last show, Jordan? Because you were annoying me, and I have the power to do so. That's why. Stats, what are you doing with the Rockies and Pirates?
Yeah, so, I mean, I like where Mangone was going with that. And as far as the pitching goes, we really don't have to get too detailed there. I just don't think you're playing either one of these guys. So we're passing on the pitching. And I like what Mangone said about Colorado. Maybe you want to go that side of this game because they are going to be less owned than the Pittsburgh side. So I could get on board with Colorado more than Pitt. I think it's actually, obviously it's a 5.8 total. We've been seeing, it's a 5.8 team total that in the sports betting market. We're seeing higher team totals. I mean, we saw the Yankees at higher team totals this week, not playing in Coors. Right now they came through. So it's not typical Coors. It's not like 13.5 run totals that we've seen in the past. So I'm okay with kind of getting, this is always a point of contention, as Mangone, the Coors games, but This is actually a game tonight. I don't mind getting under on both. If I'm going to be over, I'd prefer to be over on the Colorado side. And if you're playing the, single entry, 3 maxes, things like that, staying away and trying to hit the GPP with maybe an Arizona or one of these other teams, maybe mixing Arizona, one of these much lesser owned stacks, maybe the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. And if you want, John, here's the approach you take. You root on Coors unders tonight. And the reason why you root on Coors unders tonight is Pride Month. Pride celebration is tomorrow night in Denver, Saturday at Coors. That's the day that the game goes over. So you root the unders on, and then you root for the Pride Month celebration Saturday at Coors tomorrow, and you slam the overs. So there you go.
John's taking the DC approach. I'm not even going to comment on that one. Just, let it go.
I'm just wondering if he used slam intentionally.
I didn't use slam intentionally, but I did see DC slam Jordan into YouTube jail. So.
I let him have a couple shots. He took the 3 strikes and you're out. He took the third one and it was like, all right.
It's just like here's the thing. The comment that he made, like you're a little bitch or whatever. Like, dude, like what if you're at your job and I was pissing you off? You know what I mean? Like we're trying to do a show, man. We're trying to move things along. We got other things to do for our members. We're doing a free show, and you, as a freeloader, are wasting our time. So you can get out of here.
He only had the timeout last show, but he got the permaban on this show. So he'll have to come back with a new account, which I'm sure he will. Perhaps by the next 15 minutes before the show is over. All right, White Sox and Diamondbacks up next. The D-backs, the Snakes were the winners last night. Sure seems like this D-backs team shows up on the winners more than their fair share of slates. They do have right up there on the highest team totals on this slate. It's been climbing all day, sitting at 5.25 runs right now. Not surprising to me. I was actually surprised to see it below 5 earlier in the day. They get arguably the worst starting pitcher on the slate going against them, and Chris Flexen, arguably the worst bullpen in baseball in the Chicago White Sox going against them to obviously come in the game after probably not that many Chris Flexen innings. So, yeah, I like the D-backs better against lefties as the numbers bear out, but certainly a good spot for them here against Flexen and the White Sox, who are just awful. And I wanted to buy into Ryan Nelson, cheap, 5,500, big favorite against the White Sox. They actually let him throw a fair number of pitches, but just couldn't get there, Mangone. He's just been so bad as Ryan Nelson that he didn't quite make the cut for me. Just a complete lack of faith in him as a pitcher, but he does have literally everything else going for him. So I do kind of get it if people wanted to take a shot on Ryan Nelson. What are you doing here, Mangone, with D-backs and White Sox?
Yeah, I love this game from a hitting perspective. I think it's a good one to target. For one, Nelson's not good. 2, look at this White Sox lineup. It feels like we got a little bit of a resurgence here for the White Sox. It's not amazing, but I'll just read it off to you. Tommy Pham in the 1 hole, Gavin Sheets, Luis Robert, Andrew Vaughn, Andrew Benintendi, Paul DeJong, Nicky Lopez going from that 1 or 2 hole to 7 to Corey Lee and then Lenyon Sosa. It's a better lineup, and it's shown in the numbers and their power. Rin Nelson's not good. This Arizona bullpen is not good. I think the White Sox are a really good stack to consider today. Arizona, I'll also consider them because, listen, I liked Chris Flexen in the last start because I thought it was really good leverage in the Boston situation. But we know Chris Flexen isn't this like ace or anything like that. If anything, people like to target him. And honestly, that White Sox bullpen is really bad. So I think we got to like these D-backs, and I think we got to like the White Sox. This is going to be a complete game stack spot, get overweight on both teams. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, makes sense. We could see some offense in this game. I did list the White Sox as one of my favorite contrarian value GPP stacks. What are you doing with this game stats?
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, as you were talking, though, I was looking, I thought the White Sox, at least the projected ownerships, would be a little lower. So it's kind of taking me aback because I was going to be on the White Sox as a contrarian option as well. They're not that contrarian if they're going to be high single digits with a team total 3.8. You know, I kind of talked myself out in the last 2 minutes of being as high on the White Sox as I was. And I kind of think, you know, my initial take was going to be, yeah, get over on the White Sox, and maybe and maybe Arizona is going to be a little under. I think we might actually be able to get over on the Arizona bats if the projections are, you know, that I'm looking at are accurate. Then I think you can get even higher on Arizona. So I'm kind of flipping in the last 2 minutes here, but staying. And I like Chicago's contrarian. I just don't think they're contrarian enough when I'm looking at a lot of these guys in the, you know, at 10%, 8%, some of their bigger bats at least. So I don't mind being like maybe 5% of my stacks on the White Sox and then getting up in the 20s on Arizona. So I think the way to play it now that I'm looking at this ownership level is maybe getting under on that Pittsburgh Colorado game, taking that and moving it over to Arizona. And for whatever reason, again, I agree with you. I do think the White Sox do have a chance to do some damage in this game. But if you look at the market, 3.8 team total, I think their ownership is just going to be a little too high for that team total. I would rather go elsewhere with some of these other games and take a shot. You know, some of the games that we talked about, and I got one coming up as well that, you know, at a 3.8 total, I'd much rather be on Cleveland, I think, where their ownership is going to be, as opposed to the White Sox. I'd rather play Cleveland at lower ownership than the White Sox at higher ownership. That's kind of where I stand on this game. But yeah, as far as pitching goes, we're not touching it.
Yeah, you're certainly paying higher price tags for Cleveland, which I think is driving a lot of the ownership for the White Sox. It does seem, though, that the White Sox are maybe you know, a favored contrarian stack of a lot of people, maybe a lot of content. And I mean, I get it against Ryan Nelson. He's awful. And the nice thing about the White Sox is they never pinch hit. They just don't have, you know, they're running the best 9 guys out there they have. Those 9 guys aren't any good, but it's not like they have some bench bats that they can pull off. So you do normally get the full 9 innings from whoever starts for the White Sox. Probably will be true tonight as well. KC and the LA Dodgers are up next as we have 3 games to go here. Gavin Stone, big favorite, -160 over Cole Ragans, who's been fantastic this year. It's kind of the year of the, you know, the young lefty, Tarek Skubal, Cole Ragans, Garrett Crochet, all guys we've been very high on. The return of Chris Sale, all left-handed, hard-throwing dudes. Ragans has been awesome this year. I can't do it at this price tag against the Dodgers. I do think you'll get him very low owned, so maybe not the craziest contrarian option. Won't be for me. I think Gavin Stone is in play at 8,400. Did get up to 101 pitches in his last start, which is kind of a concern for him. A good start in New York as well, so impressive stuff from Gavin Stone in that one. I think he's a pretty good play here against the Royals. Certainly the betting markets think so. The Royals have a really low team total. Kind of surprising given that they're playing some good baseball this year. And then going to start with you, Dodgers and Royals. What do you got?
Yeah, really like Cole Ragans. I do think the matchup is tough, but I just have respect for him. So I like some of the other top end pitchers, but I would definitely have exposure to Ragans here. I think he's worth taking some stabs on. Gavin Stone is an interesting one at 8,400. I think he'll definitely be someone I get overweight on. This is a game that I don't like any of the bats, and I'm just mainly targeting these 2 pitchers. They're not going to be 2 pitchers that I have like this overweight stand that I think are like the slam dunk pitchers on the slate. There are other guys we talked about earlier that I liked more, but these guys are in the pool, and I think they're ones I want to definitely get a little bit overweight on.
Looks like the cut line can go to +5, so I'll get to suffer Scotty Scheffler for another 6 hours of my day in each of the next 2 days. That was good. I was kind of looking just to be done with it, but no, it does look like Mr. Scheffler might sneak in there. Stats, what do you got for us? Dodgers and Royals.
Yeah, I mean, Mangone loves taking a stab from a hard lefty, so I know how much he loves Reagan's, but I'm gonna be with Mangone on Reagan's here. I'll be over the market on Reagan's. He's looking at about 20 in the 20-point projection in the betting markets when you look at it. 6.3 strikeouts. He's got the highest projected out total on the night, up over 19 outs. Nobody else is that high, with Hunter Green coming in right behind him. Actually, Suarez at 18.9 right behind him. So they're looking for Reagans to go deep in this game. I'm going to be over the market on him. I'm not as high on Stone as maybe you guys are, so I'm going to be very low ownership on Gavin Stone tonight. As far as the bats go, I don't, with my love of Reagans on this game, I'm not going to have much in the way of Dodgers, but I'm not going to have much Kansas City either. So for me, Reagans is going to be one of my higher owned pitchers. I'm going to have to, he's going to be in the mix there with Peralta and I forget who my other, Hunter Green. Those are going to be some big ones. Did I say Hunter? Yeah, Hunter Green. Getting Hunter Green and Hunter Brown mixed up, but those are going to be some of my bigger pitching leverage spots here tonight.
All right, Texas and Seattle up next. Luis Castillo was scheduled to start yesterday, pushed back. I don't think that's anything other than rotation management from Seattle. They had Brian Wu scheduled to pitch earlier this week. He got scratched. It kind of seems like they're just moving the people around from there. So if that was a concern for anybody with Castillo, I do think it's a big nothing in terms of, wasn't feeling good or injury. I don't think that's anything like that with Castillo. He was 8,600 here at home against the Rangers. Not maybe the easiest matchup in the world, but the Rangers have been a little bit disappointing this year overall. We love Mariners pitchers at home in general. I keep talking about this Seattle ballpark. It is one to target more so than ever. So, yeah, Castillo, I do like him quite a bit at 8,600. And I like the pitcher on the other side, Andrew Heaney. Hopefully I convinced some of the viewers watching in chat to move Crochet to their clear number one option yesterday over Joe Ryan. Absolutely smashed, 13 strikeouts for Crochet. I don't mean to compare Andrew Heaney to Garrett Crochet. They're not in the same stratosphere in terms of talent, but they are pitching against the same lineup in the same park. They both throw from the left side. And Heaney, his weakness, like Crochet's, if Crochet has one, is the long ball. Heaney can be a pretty good strikeout guy. The DraftKings points per game are a little bit low for him because he's come out of the bullpen a couple times. I kind of like him here at 7K against this Mariners lineup. So I'm in on both these pitchers. I'm going to continue to fade this ballpark in terms of bats, that as I have been all year, and will continue to do going forward. So, yeah, give me both pitchers in this one. I do think we'll get pretty decent ownership on both these guys, which I guess is a small drawback, but I'm in anyway. Mangone, what are you doing with Rangers and Mariners here?
Yeah, I love Heaney here. It's definitely a really good spot. I always talked about him. He is just a very boom bust pitcher. And this is a perfect spot where you can have a huge ceiling game. So I absolutely love him. One counter I'll make against your take on the Seattle stuff, DC, is like, we know Seattle is boom bust on the opposite side. So like, I think leverage wise, you could make a case for Seattle at their cheap prices against someone like Heaney. I won't do it. I will not be doing the leverage on it. I always talk about this when I do the after hours playbook, because it's always like 3 games or 2 or 4 games. And I always like say, hey, this is the leverage play. You could do it if you want, or this isn't a leverage play. And I am doing it. I am not going to do it here, but I understand if you wanted to on the 12-game slate. Heaney, though, I like way more. And I like the call on Castillo of just saying, hey, he's at home, been way better there. This is a good park for pitchers. I'm going to definitely take stabs on Castillo today at his price tag.
Yeah, over to you, Stats, Mariners and Rangers.
So I do think this is a good leverage play, and that is against Castillo. I'm going to be fading Castillo. I'll be under the market, at least not total fade, but I'm going to be under the market drastically on Castillo, and then playing a little bit more Texas. But I know I hate the ballpark. I get it. But just looking, I think the betting markets are kind of projecting Castillo worse than what the DFS markets are projecting him at. So I think this is an opportunity here to get some leverage. That's part of the reason why I'm a bit higher on some of those other pitchers that I talked about tonight. So I'm going to be heavily under on Castillo, which means I'm going to increase my bats on Texas. Haney, I don't like as much as you guys here tonight. I'm okay with it. He's not going to be high owned if you want to take a stab there, but I think I'll be at the market, if not below. And both the Texas and Seattle bats, I'll have a little bit more of than the market here tonight. Not going to go crazy, but you don't have to go crazy. I don't think this is going to be a very owned game as far as offensively goes. I think Castillo gets some ownership here. And for me, this is a good spot. This is my favorite of the top 4 or 5 pitchers to be under on.
Stats going to be hurting when another Mariners game finishes 2-1.
Yes.
Let's go to LA Angels and the San Francisco Giants to wrap up this slate. Spencer Howard, Tyler Anderson, obviously another good pitcher's park here in San Francisco. I've got some interest in Spencer Howard. He is extremely cheap at 5,200. The pitch count thing for him, I think, is somewhat of a concern, but it is on the increase. 49 pitches back on May 28th, 67 on June 3rd, and then 74 last time out against Texas. Pitching decently well. Against an Angels team that doesn't hit right-handed pitching, and obviously a good place to pitch at home for Spencer Howard. So I think he's interesting if you're trying to get some of those big bats, which I always am. So I like Howard. I can't do Tyler Anderson at 7,700. I actually kind of think the Giants, Chapman, Solares of the world are interesting against the soft-tossing lefty Tyler Anderson. So I'm on the Giants side of this game. What about you, man, going Giants and Angels, last game of the slate?
Yeah, and our guy Noah is in here wanting his nemesis Bobby to do MLB shows. Noah, just use the code DC15 and Bobby's on the course tonight. That's how you can get Bobby's content. So,
there you
go. DC, I'll leave the Spencer Howard shares to you tonight. I don't think I'll be going there, but again, I touted up Logan Allen a little bit, so that sounds gross. But a guy I'm not going to tout up is Tyler Anderson. I think he's a horrific play on this slate. I think he's got a lot of regression coming his way, and it's not going to be good. And I kind of want to take stabs on the Giants. I was going to kind of leave it to you guys to talk me in or out of it, just because I think Tyler Anderson's so bad. But the counterpoint is I don't like this ballpark. Like, it's getting to that time of year where I really don't want to target this Giants park. Now, wind is blowing out like 20 miles an hour, but it's only 60 degrees. I don't know. I kind of want to get sold more on the Giants, and I want you guys to help me out, but I want to play the Giants today. I'll say that.
What's Spencer Howard's out prop? Give me the prop stats. I haven't looked them up. I do kind of like them though. But
they didn't really. Yeah, he wasn't, at least before the show. He had no prop markets, so he was like the.
That should be. I should be concerned about that as a.
That is a concern sometimes. Yeah, there was no market on his props. So yeah, take that for what you will. Yeah, I'm kind of gonna get behind the San Fran bats a little bit more maybe than man go. I like that. I mean, it's up 20 to 25 mile an hour winds blowing out to right field.
Stats for the record, I want to love them today, but I wanted to get pushed there because we typically don't love this park in like June, July, and August, right? But I want to get there and love them. So I'm glad to hear that you're on.
Yeah, I definitely. I think we're going to be able to get some leverage on the field. I think they're going to be lower owned than they should be. And then the potential's there for some home runs with that win. I mean, it's the biggest win game of the slate, I believe. And yeah, it's not the greatest park, but 23 mile an hour, 25 mile an hour winds could certainly negate that. So I think you can get some leverage on the field. It's the late game, which tends to be a little maybe lower owned sometimes as well. People don't want to stay up and watch that one. I like this one from a San Francisco standpoint. So I'm going to be. I will have a decent amount of San Francisco stacks. I think it's a game that not a lot of people are talking about. This is kind of the one that sneaks in there. when you look at the chart that I put up there on a nightly basis, the team total stack chart, especially on a slate like this, you want to kind of look down at start looking at that 4th, 5th, 6th stack and see if you like it, because that's usually a sweet spot of not going to be really high owned, and their potential is high enough to be the highest stack on the night. And I think San Fran kind of fits that bill. So I like playing San Fran stacks here.
Stats, I can't see the team stack charts in the chat because there's so many boobs everywhere, man. Like I can't help it. I can't notice what the stack is. I get distracted.
Yeah, if you like boobs, you've got to join the Discord. And,
that's really what I should have been promoting, trying to get people to use my promo code.
Yeah.
It's a big missed opportunity on my part.
It's just amazing how many GIFs of boobs there are out there. I don't even think we've even dented the surface. So
for DC's new promotion to be check out stats stack chart and check out the comments that reply. There's tons of boobs.
A lot of boobs, yes, sir. Howard 3.5K prop juiced on the under. That's very concerning for my Spencer Howard take. I will be betting the over on that number, but might have to scale it back a little bit on Howard for DFS purposes. All right, that's all 12 games. Running overtime here, but let's get to the stacks. Mangone, we're going to you first. Favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack.
Okay, favorite stack. Let's go with, I'm not going to put the cores in the conversation because I don't think it's worth doing that. Let's go with Arizona. I really like Arizona today. I want to take some stabs on them, so we'll go with Arizona.
Contrarian stack?
Yeah, contrarian. I'm going to go with the Giants because I really wanted to like them going in, and stats definitely gave me that final selling point. So Giants, if I was doing a quarter day, I think I'd do a nice little Giants stack.
It's only your 23rd time on the show. It's understandable that you don't know how we do it at the end of the show by now. Stats, your favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Arizona as well. I hate joining Mangone here, but I'll go with Arizona. My contrarian stack, I'm gonna take Cleveland as the contrarian stack here tonight. I like that one.
I like that too. I will go with the Pirates. I'm gonna play some low-owned, cheaper pitchers tonight. Get in some Coors Field, so I will be eating some chalk on the bats. The Pirates are my favorite stack on the night. I was actually going to go with the Guardians as well as my contrarian stack, but we'll get a little bit different. I'll go with the Giants against Tyler Anderson. Seems like all three of us are interested in that. Just not a believer in Tyler Anderson. Mangone, your most important pitcher tonight.
All right, most important pitcher. It's I don't want to say Sale. I don't think it's him.
Let's go Hunter Brown. We're a truthful telling show here. If that's your guy, that's your guy.
No, I think it's Hunter Brown. I think Hunter Brown, because I love him as a value. He's a guy I want to be very overweight on. I like these top end pitchers, but I think there are values to take chances on. Sometimes we look at the values and there's not much, like that other slate we had last week where we talked about Logan Allen and all these other shitty plays. There's enough value here where it's a little bit of a better slate. So I'm going to go with Hunter Brown.
Hunter Brown, love it. I'm in on the Brown train as well. I will go with Mr. Simeon Woods Richardson as my most important pitcher. Over to you, Stats, your most important pitcher on this slate.
Yeah, the most important pitcher is going to probably be Peralta for me.
All right. Home run call. Plenty to choose from on a 12-game slate. Who's going yard, Mangone?
Home run call. We will go with, let's go with Mr. O'Neal Cruz from the Coors game. We'll take him as my guy. He takes 1 yard early. Hopefully the Pirates can, I know we want the unders there, but we'll take the O'Neal Cruz homer to kick it off.
Absolutely. I'll be rooting for that myself. Stats, who's going yard?
Christian Walker for me.
Love it. I will go with Mr. Rhys Hoskins, taking Hunter Green deep into the night in Milwaukee. And that leaves us with your favorite overall offensive player on the slate. Mangone, who do you got for us?
All right, overall player, we got to take a Diamondback. I was considering saying Christian Walker, but let's go with Ketel Marte. In that second base spot, dude's been on an absolute heater. If you look at the game logs, it's 6 double-digit point games in a row. I mean, I'll take double digits at my second base position, and hopefully he can get us a big game. I know he's had some. He had a big game for me this year where he got like 40 DK points or something crazy like that. Hopefully he can pull that off today.
Stats, your favorite offensive player on the slate.
I'll stick with Arizona. I'll go with Corbin Carroll.
And I will wrap it up with Mr. Brian Reynolds for the Pirates in Coors Field. That'll do it for this slate long show today. Hopefully gave you guys some good information. Hopefully see some winners up top in the RPS and DraftKings tournaments tonight. No show on Saturday. We do, of course, have our Euro 2024, not Euro League, but Euro Championship soccer tomorrow, along with the MMA show. Both of those are free, as is the Round 4 Showdown show. So plenty of YouTube content on the Run Pure Sports channel tomorrow. No baseball show, but we will be back on Sunday morning as usual, breaking it all down for you guys. Hit the like button on your way out. Good luck to everybody on this Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you on Sunday morning for Mangone. For Statsational, I'm Draft Cheat, and we're out of here.